A standard controller page is used for displaying one record. Okay, so standard controller is used for creating a single record page. Okay, so this page will be mainly used for creating a single record page. Got it? And now which record you want to display on this page, you have to supply the ID of that record in the URL. Got it? So how will we get the ID? Okay, just go to any account record, copy the ID. This is the ID part. Copy it. Go to your Visualforce page. After the page name, put question mark ID equals and paste the ID. Press enter. Right. So now you get to see the data of the record. Now you get to see the name, phone, fax, all these things of the record for which you have supplied the ID. Now if I take ID of some other record, I go to this one. If I just take the ID of some other record, let's say this one, you take the ID of this and replace the ID, then the information on the page will change. Correct? So the page that you have created, actually the code that you have written is kind of a generic code, okay, a template kind of a thing. Now based on the ID which is supplied in the URL, it will change. Okay, so when I say that a standard controller page is usually designed for a single record, now why are we not supplying the ID in the code itself? When it's for a single record, I have to supply the ID. Why don't I put the ID somewhere here in the code? You don't put the ID in the code because you don't want to make the code work for only one record, correct? You want this code or this page to work for all the records. The moment that the ID changes in the URL, the data in the page also changes. That's how Salesforce default page is also there, right? So this is the page. The moment ID changes here, the information on the page changes, correct? So the same concept works for Visualforce also. The moment you are changing the ID in the URL, your Visualforce page is changing. The content in the page basically. Got it? So which object you want to connect it with, that's defined as the controller. Which object you want your Visualforce page to get connected to, what all fields you want to display, that's here, okay, and which record needs to be displayed, that's something which is to be supplied in the URL. Okay, so record ID has been kept outside the code of the page just to make sure that we do not create a page which works only for one record ID. So the moment you keep on changing the IDs in the URL, the information keeps on changing in the Visualforce page. Here, let me know if anyone has a question or doubt understanding this, how the entire connectivity is working. You created the page, connected it with the object, what all data you want to see, you define those fields, and once you supply the ID in the URL, you actually see the data based on the ID that you have supplied. Right? Okay. So let's go ahead and create one more page. This time I'll create a page for opportunity. trying to create a page for opportunity. Then what should be my standard controller? I'm trying to create a page for opportunity. What should be the standard controller?
Standard controller equals to opportunity in double.
Where will I write that?
Epics page.
As an attribute next to page.
Attribute of the Apex page. Is it correct? Is this correct?
Should match with the name on top, maybe opportunities.
No. But this part is correct, right? Controller equals opportunity.
We need to mention standard controller.
Yes. Standard controller. Okay. Controller is basically for the custom controller. So don't use controller here. Standard controller. Now opportunity or opportunities. How will you know that? Just go back, log into your Salesforce developer org and tell me whether it's opportunity or opportunities. Quick. What is the best way of figuring it out? Name of the object is same
Do we
as the
check the
name.
API name?
Yes. So name of the object is same as name of the uh, standard controller. Got it? So name of this object is opportunity. You can go to opportunity object and find it. I mean, opportunity is pretty simple, but if you're working with some other object and you're not very sure whether you know what name to be used, then this is the best way to figure it out. Well, just go to that object, see what is exactly name of that object, and use it. Okay. Now this part is done. Okay, I want to display opportunity name, so I have to write opportunity dot name. Then I want to display amount. I can do opportunity dot amount. Okay. Then I want to show the close date. Okay. So what is the name of this close date field? I just want the name of the close date field. Please check it quickly and let me know. What is the name of the field? If I try to save it now, it will throw an error. What is this close? So I don't know what is the exact name of this. Is there an underscore here? Is there a hyphen or what? Because definitely the name cannot have a space in between. So there must be something. Quickly go and check the name of this field and let me know.
There is no space. You can close it. Close it.
Is it like this?
Yes.
Okay. How did you check it?
The opportunity you feel.
Right. So you just have to go to the opportunity fields and see the name of the field. Fine. So it's very simple. So just go to opportunities fields or whichever object you are checking. Got it? Okay. Now I don't see any data on this. The reason I've not supplied ID. When you supply ID, you will get to see the data. So where is the ID? Take the ID. Now because it's an opportunity page, you have to make sure that you're taking ID of an opportunity only. And come here to the page. Question mark ID equals this page. Right. So once the URL has an ID, you get to see the information here. Right? Is it okay? So we understand how to create the Visualforce pages with a standard controller. So you can pick any object and you can design a page for that particular object, right? And standard controller is for one record, and you have to always supply the ID in the URL when you are using a standard controller. When you're creating a page using standard controller always requires an ID. The logic of standard controller is like that. It always requires an ID. It will pick the ID from the URL and then display the information on the page. Got it? Now let's look into a few more components. We'll go back to the previous page, account page. Okay. Okay. So this is the account page displaying the account information. Now we'll work with a few more components. Okay. One component is the apex page block, something which we saw yesterday also. Let's say out of this information, I want to put this information inside a rectangular box. So there's a page block option available. So when you use this page block, you see that a block has got created. Now you can put this entire information inside it. Um, Initially when you start writing the code, I would want you guys to try to write it as much neat and clean as possible. Correct. That will help you understand things properly. So it's basically something that you should do always. Just try to keep your code as much neat as possible, use proper indents and all. But once you have become a little more experienced, then even if you don't do it, you know doesn't matter. But right now it's a good habit to do that, right? So that at least you don't get confused looking at your own code. Okay. So now see, the page block has actually created this kind of a rectangular box, right? And then page block has an attribute called title. So in title you can just put a string, any character, set of characters, my account, and it will create the title for the page block. Instead of this, you can also use a field value on the title, like account.name. details. Fine, so you can use the field value, you can just use a string, you can combine both the things. So that's how you can use it. Okay. Now I want to further break it into sections. So if you want to break a page block into smaller sections, you have an option of doing that as well. So you can make it page block section. Okay, so I've created a page block. Inside the page block, I have created a page block section. A page block section is basically to further break your page block into smaller sections. Now this page block section, if you see, it has created a slightly different section for this. These three things: name, type, industry. Right. You have an option of putting a title for this also. General info or do you see this? So there's a title which gets created for your page block section. The same way, I can create a page block section. So usually what you will do is, if you are creating a page block or page block section or any other similar component, you don't have to type the entire thing. As you see here, you just have to write apex colon and write an initial few letters, and it will give you the list of components, matching components, and you can select, like, I need page block section. So I just come to page block section and press enter. Okay, it shows me both the opening and closing tags. Here it is. So I have created two page block sections inside my page block. The second section also needs to have a title. Let me give it a title. We'll call it contact info. Yeah. So this is the code. Page block section, page block. Inside that page block, you have page block section, then another page block section. Okay. Now, if you see, the page block sections are by default collapsible. Okay, you have the option of collapsing them. Now, this is also an attribute for a page block section. If you don't want it to be collapsible, you can just say and go and say collapsible equals false. You can do the same thing here. You can go and say collapsible equals false. Now it's not collapsible anymore. Clear? Okay. In this page, so far we have displayed data field by field. Okay. So if you just want to display a few fields, this is a good approach, what we have done here. But if you want to display all the data of a certain record, then instead of going field by field, because there can be a lot of fields and calling them one by one can be a little difficult, we have another component which is called apex detail. Okay, get this. I can put a component called apex detail. Just use the apex detail component. Now what does this apex detail component do? See, it will show the complete details of that record. Which record? The one that you have shared the ID on, the URL. Okay. So you will have all the details of this record on the page just by using one small component, which is apex detail. Okay. So if you want a few fields, then use this approach. If you want the entire record details, then just use apex detail component. That's it. Correct. Now apex detail by default comes with the related list. If you see contacts, opportunity, cases, so account details have come and the related list of the account have also come on the page. Related list is basically list of child records. So those related lists have also appeared on the page. In case you just want the account details and you don't want the related list, there is an attribute which is called related list. So in the detail component, there is an attribute called related list. You can make it false. If you make it false, then the related list will not be displayed. Account detail is still coming, but the related lists are not being displayed. Correct? Yeah. And there is one more thing which comes with detail component, this title at the top. When you use an apex detail component, this title also comes at the top. Earlier it was not coming, right? If you don't want this title as well, then go ahead and say title equals false. Now see this, that title is not appearing. Right. Okay. So that's it for today.